But back to The Sopranos. So the way you get work is like, it's all about who you know. I mean, what you know gets you so far. Your personality will get you so far, but it's who you know. And the thing about Sopranos was funny. The sound guy they hired for the pilot, which was turned out to be the first episode when they didn't even know it would become a series, he quit or got fired on day one. Don't know why. There's some beef with one of our assistant directors, and the guy said, "You're fired," or he said, "I'm out of here," whatever. Anyway, so I get the call because I knew the production manager from a little job I had done, I don't know, a couple of years before. So she called me and said, "We're doing this little pilot for HBO. You're interested?" And fortunately, I was available at the time, so I started on, pulled a crew together real quick. There's usually 3 of us in the sound department. And I started that Wednesday, and 10 years later, we wrapped the final episode. So things are really, the way things happen, it's just crazy that way.
So you did every season?
I did every season of The Sopranos, all 86 episodes. And speaking of careers, that was kind of a good thing and a bad thing. It put me on the map in terms of getting known as a sound mixer because, not to toot my own horn, I wound up with 6 Emmy nominations for sound, and there's a group called the Cinema Audio Society. That's what the CAS stands for. That's basically it's a guild for sound mixers, to kind of share information and to boost our visibility as a part of the film business. So I think I got 6 nominations from them. I won 1 from them and some other stuff. So it really put me on the map career-wise. But being on the same show for 10 years, you work with the same people. And if you're going to freelance, it's really about having as many eggs in your basket as you can possibly have. So it was good on the one hand of getting me out there and getting me noticed, but on the other hand, I think I stayed on there too long. Because after I left that, I had to now still build up a whole network of contacts to get future work and people working in the business. I'm doing this job, I'm doing that job, you're available. So I probably should have left a few seasons earlier and been able to expand. I mean, I'm doing all right, but it's like the more people you know. But there's these half dozen sound mixers in New York that get the first calls of any major movie comes into town. There's like 5 or 6 guys, they always get it. So I'm kind of like, there's like the A-list, I'm kind of like A-ish list. But, I work all the time. I wind up in TV. The thing about TV, it's more quantity than quality. A movie could be maybe 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. A big film could be a few months. But a TV show, we just spent 7 months on the following. We would do the show Blue Bloods. It's on CBS, and Person of Interest. Those shows, they do 9, 10 months at a time. It's like factory work in a way. It's kind of grueling, because every episode you have a new director coming and they're all fresh and ready to go, and we're exhausted. And you have the constant situation because you always have to shoot nights sometime that we wind up saving it to the end of the week. So by Friday night, back up again. This is my schedule. Monday morning, we usually start around 7 a.m. If we're lucky. When we were doing this, I was doing another show called White Collars on USA. And sometimes Monday mornings they'd have like a 6 a.m. or 6:30 call. It's like, don't even get me started. So we'll work out a 12-hour day, and White Collar was a very fast schedule because they just ripped it out. But still, on other shows, let's say you do 14 hours. Well, because we're all in the unions, so they have to give us at least 10 hours called turnaround between when they wrap us one day and then they bring us in the next. So if you're doing more than 14 hours, all of a sudden you don't have 24 hours in the day. So now you start the next day a little later, maybe at 8 o'clock or even 9 o'clock. And then that happens again. So Wednesday, now you're starting at 10 o'clock. And sometimes they have night shooting. So now Thursday, you're starting at 2 in the afternoon and going to 3 in the morning. And Friday, you're starting maybe 4, sometimes 5. Sometimes they do these all-nighters where you come in at 5 p.m. and you watch the sun come up. I have seen more sunrises in this business than I ever did in all my years partying in college. But then, so Saturday, you're exhausted. You get home around, 7, 8 in the morning. The sun's coming in, and you have to sleep. So now you sleep. I try to sleep maybe 5 hours, 6, so I can get up by noon, so I have something of a weekend. But then what happens is Saturday night you're exhausted, so you sleep late Sunday. Now, Monday morning, you have to be up at 4 a.m. again. So now, how do you get to sleep Sunday night to get enough sleep for Monday morning? So you don't. So let's say you're up till midnight. Let's say you're up at 5. You get another 5 hours. You start a 60, 70-hour week all over again. The sleep deprivation is exhausting. It's really.
Let's go.
It's really rough. And so everyone says, "Oh, that's so much fun. What you do is so glamorous. You get to work with all these actors. Which famous people do you know?" I'm like, "Are you kidding?" I mean, I'm not saying I don't. I'm not sorry. I hit my own mic. I'm not saying I don't love what I do. I really do. But I would really love it at 12 hours a day. We tell people, I say, "Oh, it was an easy day. We only work 12 hours." They look at me like I'm crazy. Only work 12 hours. I'm like, we consider that a good day.
Now, okay, so let's talk about that.
Not to matter the weather.
Let's talk about how many times you can be late to your job.
Well, I'm the boss in my department, so I've gotten better, but I have this 10-minute late thing. That's not good.
10-minute late thing.
Yeah.
How late can your crew be?
They can't be late.
They cannot be late. So
No.
if somebody's working under you, they cannot be late. Wow. It's just like amazing to me that you cannot be late to show up for your job. Interesting. Okay. Now,
but it's worse than that, because not only can you not be late, you're not feeling good? Oh, shit. Sorry. It's not easy as a mixer. I mean, it's a 3-person department. Sound mixer, the boom operator, and a utility person who often booms also. They run the mics out. I have a little sheet that I typed up myself that gives you all the breakdown of all the of everyone in the sound part of the filmmaking process. But they have to be there on time, and it happens that it's easy. Like, I would need a boom operator for the day. Somebody's got to take a day off. You make some phone calls. You can get somebody for the day. For a utility person, I need to replace somebody. On the following, we would always shoot one day for the next episode with a whole separate crew. So my utility person, who was amazing, this woman Allison Jackson, she would mix the other unit. So I had to replace her. She had to get a crew. But for me, with all my equipment. And I will say right now I have about $200,000 worth of location sound equipment that I've amassed over the years. So that's another part of being a sound mixer in the film business. They expect you to own your own equipment.
but that's not a problem because we like to buy stuff, right?
Yeah, everyone likes. No, that's the women. Remember?
That's right. No, we like to buy gear though.
Yeah, we like to buy.
Women
gear.
like to buy stuff.
Stuff. Yeah,
we buy gear.
Yeah, our well, we like to buy. It's not stuff. It's gear.
It's
so
gear.
so it's
Big
important.
difference.
Yeah. Don't. But it's not easy, to get another mixer in, because if I'm like, God forbid, I'm sick, thank God I'm healthy, but if I have to take a day off for a family emergency, it's not easy to do it, because I got all my equipment. It means either another sound mixer coming in for the day and sitting in on my cart. And everybody's set up, recorder, mixer, wireless mics, they all basically do the same thing, but everybody's setup is different. So I've done it. I've sat in on other people's boards, and it's great to learn to see how other people do things. It's been a lot of fun doing that. But it's not an easy thing to do to get somebody to come in. And worst comes to worst, somebody has to bring in their own equipment, then you have to deal with a Teamster driver and a truck, or they got to drive. It becomes a nightmare. I cannot replace myself easily. And family goes, can you just leave early? Come on, I got tickets for a show tonight. Can't you leave early? I'm like, no. I don't buy any tickets for any shows, any music. I don't do anything Monday through Friday. If I do anything, it's going to be a Sunday afternoon or Saturday. And I usually, go to the theater or catch some music, and I sit down on a show on a Saturday night after working 70 hours a week. Lights go out, so do I. You're just exhausted. And we've had deaths because of it. There's a movement in the business called 12 on, 12 off. This movie filmed California a bunch of years back called Pleasantville, and after a 14-hour day, a camera assistant fell asleep and drove off the road and died. 2 kids, because of exhaustion, because not enough turnaround, not enough care for the hours that we work. So it's a fun, interesting business. Every day is always a little different, but man, it is not an easy life. So, yes?
So I have 2 questions. One is, what is the name of you guys' union? Because I heard you say you guys were under a union.
Yeah.
And the second one is, what are the qualifications for your job?
Well, the union is called IATSE, I-A-T-S-E. It's the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees.
You can use media boards to write it up there.
Oh, you want me to write on a blackboard? Oh my
Well,
goodness.
the whiteboard, if you will.
Well, okay. Okay, anyway, it's called, we call it IATSE. And
Because I will test you on this, so get over it.
don't mind my handwriting. That's an O. I'm in Local 52. IATSE is a national union, and it's made up of all kinds of different fields. But Local 52 is a New York local. There's 695 in Los Angeles is just sound people. In New York, for some reason, the sound people are in with the construction guys, in with the prop guys, the re-recording mixers who are the post-production sound. We're all in this one local together, which actually, the electrics, the grips, you know, all the different people on the set. So it's a pretty powerful, pretty strong, you know, not that when contract time comes around and we lose things every time we renegotiate, but let's not even go there. My particular qualifications, gee, I don't know. I love music. I love listening to music. I always say whenever I do a class like this, I always think of the human voice as a musical instrument, and I try to record it and mix it that way. It's all about blending stuff. But you basically have to buy equipment and convince somebody that you know what you're doing. Really, that is basically my qualifications. You know, I started out with a video company. I was telling
Me.
Are you Professor Jackson?
Yeah.
This guy. I was telling this guy.
This guy. That's what I am.
How I got started. You know, I was saying I started in Lehman College. I went to Queens and City. I took audio production classes. I took film production. We learned how to edit, this, that, the other. And after I graduated, I won't tell you how long ago, but after I graduated, I wound up working for a video company in the field. And I thought I would go into music because I love music. That's how I got into sound in the first place. I play guitar and bass. I don't have as many guitars as this guy does. I don't think anyone does. But then I wound up working in this video company and seeing what they do, and I really enjoyed going out on location. And when I left them after 3 years, when they fired me, I decided not to be an editor because I didn't want to be in a dark room sitting looking at monitors all the time, and I wanted to be out in the field. So I wound up, we used to have these big video recorders that we carried around. I wound up doing documentary work. Basically me with a recorder and a boom microphone, maybe a couple of little wirelesses. I carry a little pouch with receivers, a little small mixer. And I would go around doing industrials. Let's say someone's doing a training video for hair care or something like that, or some CEO wants to give a speech to his company, so they would hire a camera guy who would call me, and we'd go in there and set it up and put a mic on him or whatever, and do that. So I started doing all that kind of work, but then I wound up working for the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, and they were doing serious stuff. I wound up going down to Peru and doing a documentary about the mayor of Lima, Peru. I got to see a lot of the world. It was a lot of fun being in the field. I did a lot of documentary work like that. I worked for 60 Minutes for a long time, met a lot of great people. Did a lot of work for 2020 also. And so as I was doing this, I was, you know, kind of getting more experience, working with different microphones, different recorders. I was working for German TV. I had to learn how to use this Nagra recorder that I was talking about. They said, so you can run a Nagra? When they asked me if I, you know, about my qualification, I'm like, sure. So I went online to look at them. We didn't have online. There was no online. I somehow got a manual from somebody, and I read it over, and I think I knew somebody who had it. So I said, how do you do this thing? You know, but it's basic. You know, you have you stop, you play, you record, you fast forward, and you put a reel of tape in there, and I did it. And so I taught myself for the job. It was pretty straightforward. And then anyway, you wind up piece by piece with more people you meet and the more equipment you get to work with. You learn your craft. You learn your craft. You learn what works with different microphones. Oh, this mic is good for that, but this one sounds better on that. This one's better getting rid of background noise. This one sounds better close up, but not too close because it's too bassy. So maybe you want to change the capsule because it's too present and you want a little more room in the space. And you start developing an aesthetic. A way of listening to the world and to the people you're working with that really defines how you do your job, and to some extent how your tracks will sound eventually. I mean, I always like to say I like to record fat and flat. That's a beefy sound, a lot of punch to it. I like to hear a lot of the room to some extent because mics. A lot of TV shows, there's just all these wireless mics. They're right in your face. You don't have a sense of space. But these are things you learn about over time as you do it. So as I started doing it, I started meeting more and more people. And I have been doing it, but I started small. Little things. One microphone here, one microphone there, mic overhead, just recording it, and then it's really about meeting people. And then as you do it more and more, people say, oh, well, he did this, and then you start building up a resume. And then I met a camera guy that I was working with, and he invited me to a party, and I met another sound mixer there, a guy named Lee Orloff, who went on to mix Pirates of the Caribbean and The Abyss, and he's got 3 Academy Awards. He did the Terminator films, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original. They're redoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles now. They're redoing it. They're doing a remake right now. But he took me on. He said, "You want to boom for me?" I'm like, well, I never boomed on a movie before, but I've been doing this, I've been handling mics for a couple of years at that time. So I said, well, why not? And it was like 4 weeks in the Jersey Shore, and it was like deferred payment, which means if the movie makes any money, you'll get paid. It was basically a freebie job, but I got a lot of experience because he was a great mixer, and I got to watch him at work. So it's really about finding mentors to some extent if you really want to do it in the field you want to work in, and learning and listening and paying attention to the people who do what you want to do, and it's really the way to get ahead. And so I boomed for him on this movie and a couple of shorts, and then I wound up mixing myself. I saved up some money, I bought some headphones, I bought a couple little mics, I borrowed recorders for a while, and I did a lot of short films, mostly for free, like 2 or 3 days, like little drama things, nothing you'll have ever seen. Because there's like a lot of vanity projects, like, oh, I have a little film I want to make, will you help me out? I'm like, sure, because I figured, A, I get experience, B, I meet people, but I was working for free to get experience. So just remember that that's part of the deal, is indentured servitude to get ahead.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
So remember I was telling you guys, remember I was saying about other schools, like film schools, so how other students are doing exactly what you're doing, but only on the film side. And all they want to do is focus on film. They don't want to be sound people. They want to be filmmakers. And that's why you have to go out and start meeting these people at other schools, or like at your age. You should also start going to film festivals to see what this is really about. Tribeca is what, in 2 weeks, or is it
I think it started.
It started, right?
Yeah.
So any of these film festivals, Tribeca is huge, but every borough has its own film festival, okay? Now we're talking about, like we said, like these vanity projects. Everybody's always submitting films somewhere, especially today. And so now you have to start going out there and meeting those people who are not any different than what you are. It's just that they're doing film and you're doing music audio production, okay? I'm totally down with the work for free thing, in the beginning. I think it's, what else is there, okay? Because as you grow up as a child, you're doing free labor for your parents anyway. So it's not like you're not used to it, okay? But when it comes to this, the only way to get that experience, you can't be like, I don't know what I'm doing, but you're gonna pay me 50 grand. Doesn't work like that. I had an architect tell me how kids come out of architecture school and they cannot draw a straight line. They just can't draw it because all they're used to is computers. But they'll come out of architecture school not being able to take a pencil, the main thing you need, and draw a completely straight line, and they'll want 60 grand. No experience, they can't even draw a straight line, okay? So be realistic about approaching your career when there's a great opportunity. Don't play the role. Well, don't do that. Say, I'd like to know, okay? And I'm telling you, the film thing is a serious thing. And I'm all about, even on Staten Island, we have a film festival.
Oh yeah,
It's fun. I just go because it's funny.
It's fun, yeah.
It's fun. Because, Big Ange is there, so it's always a riot, So, but it's a different issue than what you guys are used to going in recording studios. So going into the film world, there's so many opportunities for you to work for free and get that experience and take your career in a different direction that's just as serious as what you think you want to do right now. Continue.
Whether you work in music production or film, in the film side of music, it's the same process. You know, going in there, applying yourself. The best thing you can do is anticipate what whoever you're working with needs. My utility person on the following, I mentioned her before, Allison Jackson. She's been a mixer. She actually went to London's film school for 3 years. She really wanted to work in film, but she's done the quantity of crap movies she's done. It's amazing. But then she wound up like a lot of horror films and like really stuff stuff would never get into the theater. Stuff straight to video, right to DVD or streaming. But she wound up on this film, Beasts of the Southern Wild, which just got 4 Academy Award nominations, and she's terrific. But she's really learned her craft, and I was like, she's one of the most amazing people I've ever worked with. She's 30. She's young, African American woman, which is the minute I met her, I just had a good feeling because she was bright. You could see it in her eyes, you know, and she anticipates like no one else. It's like I'm thinking about something and it appears, because she knows, because she's done it. She's done it herself. And while she's working for me, I feel like I could be working for her. I mean, not quite. I got 20 years on her, but she's really phenomenal, you know. And in my department, with only 3 of us, it's kind of us against the world. When you're doing sound on a film set, let's say you got a 100-person crew every day, 97 of them, for the most part, are really about the visual. You know, you got your director of photography, of course, and your lighting people, and the grips, and the wardrobe people, and the scenics, and the set dressers, and all this stuff. It's all about how the look is. And there's 3 of us doing sound, and we have to capture all those words. And, you know, if you watch a movie and you don't understand what they're saying, my argument is always like, well, then you've lost your audience, because now they're going, what? Visually, you can do whatever you want. You can be out of focus. You can cut here, cut there, get all crazy. But if the sound is off, you lose a lot. So the sound part is really important.
It was like the big joke with the last Batman movie, because like Bane was like, you couldn't even understand him in certain scenes.
Yeah.
It was like the running joke. It was kind of like, you know, we see him wearing a mask, but you still could have done something better with it. You know?
They could have done the whole thing in post-production. You barely see his mouth move.
You know, you don't see anything. He said, we get it. You know, he's muffled, but you still could have made it clear, because it was more of like a judgment thing. But it's exactly what you said. Like, well, what? You know, you have to like watch the movie a couple of times.
Well, the same thing happened on the following. I was saying that it's this professor of English romantic literature. He has a thing for Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote all these kind of dark stories back when. And he writes his own book, and he gets panned by the critics. And one of the episodes, I think the second or third, which you haven't seen yet, some of his cult decide to torch his critics. You know, set on fire, that was a lot of fun. But anyway, but it starts out with him doing this whole Edgar Allan Poe thing. The show is sick. I mean, we'll kill somebody with a spear gun in a diner booth once. You know, it's like.
No, this is on Fox.
It's on Fox.
Like Channel 5.
It's coming on Fridays, right?
No, Mondays at 9.
Mondays, like it was on last night.
It's all on demand, Fox on Demand and stuff like that. So you can catch up. If you see it, you got to see it from the beginning, because the last scene of one episode is the first scene of the next. It just goes straight through.
This is the first season?
Yeah.
No, it's. I think you can, but I think you can do a Hulu thing on it too. Like I think you can watch it online that way. It's just that.
You can do it on Fox.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, because like for a person like me, like I know they think I'm crazy. I don't have cable. Okay. So I just.
I'm not talking about laptop. I'm talking about laptop. Fox.
Right. Okay. So you can.
You know, you go to Fox on
online.
Demand. You know.
But it's one of these things where, you know, it's. Would you say it's a heady show also in a sense?
Heady how?
You know, like it's kind of like this kind of bizarre intellect thing.
Yeah, in a twisted way.
Yeah, it is, because we're talking about literature, and you know, so that's an issue right there. That's a heady issue, and we're talking about a psychosis, and then we're talking about a sociological phenomenon of this following thing, and so that's why it's kind of worth just going to the very beginning. And just like, you know how they do like marathon days on cable and stuff? It's like, if you may be affected after a while. you may not want to sit there for like.
The show definitely warrants a marathon viewing.
Yeah.
In the pilot, let's put it this way, some woman basically takes off all her clothes, well, for the most part, we see her from behind. She has handwriting, Edgar Allan Poe, all over her body. She takes an ice pick and jams it into her own eye. If you can get past that, you can
good stuff. Right up in there. And then there.
side.
What's
Well-
that?
It sounds like some show that should be on HBO.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Actually, we really push the limits for broadcast. I'm actually glad because the show is violent enough and disturbing enough that I'm glad it's not more visceral, more like in your face, more bloody and more violent, which it would be on cable. The fact that it's controlled to some extent, because they only do so much on regular TV, means that the writers had to come up with ways to scare you without it just being all graphic in your face, like violence. But trust me, there's enough violence for everyone. The thing about the Edgar Allan Poe thing, so we started out the scene where a guy is wearing this rubber Edgar Allan Poe mask. We shot it Willoughby Street, Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn that day, if I remember right. Anyway, he's wearing this rubber mask, and so later on, we got him out. I don't know if he did it in the street right there. Maybe it was quiet enough, or maybe we got him into the studio later on somewhere. But we recorded all his dialogue, and that's what they wound up using. And in relation to Batman, I'm like, but we didn't, because you never saw his mouth. You know, the thing about looping and picking up is what we call wild lines of dialogue. Wild because it's not in sync while the camera's rolling. You just recorded just audio only, and then dropping it into a previously recorded track. It's always can be a little tricky mouth-wise. But if you watch these shows carefully, and you really listen to sound editing and the way they cut it together, it's like last week's episode, we had a scene, and they dropped an additional line. Now, I'm proud to say that we don't do a lot of replacement dialogue on my shows. We're really diligent in getting it in the moment. But a lot of times the writers, when they edit the show together, they'll see that that doesn't really make sense to me. So I'll write a line of dialogue, and let's say somebody's walking by camera, or you're behind them, and you're looking at somebody else, and they'll drop that line of dialogue in because you're not seeing their mouth. Now we're in this big hollow space. Actually, it's a Fort Cotton scene that had a fair amount of reverb because it was these big stone tunnels we were shooting in. So the room sounded nice, had a nice space to it. I like that kind of reverb as long as it's not too much. And sorry, what's my train of thought? So so they dropped in this line, but they didn't have enough room sound, reverb or ambience or whatever in the studio for this one line. So you hear the line before, it's got this nice space, and the other line, and the next line had the space again. I'm like, what do the post-production guys do? I actually had a real problem. I feel like I want to call and say, it was so noticeable to me that this line was not originally recorded on set as part of the actual thing. But, but we got it and they used it. But you can really hear the difference sometimes if you watch it.
Yeah, and
The editing part of it is really fascinating.
you got to pay attention to this stuff, and not pay attention to it to the point to be critical of it, but to be noticeable. So that because once you start noticing it, then your ear is beginning to develop a certain way. So it's not to be like, aha, did you hear that? Did you catch that? Did you catch that? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you're beginning to notice these things, and that's kind of like your cue to be careful about what you are doing as this person who's on location. And I got to tell you again, your setup, you said it's a box, it's a digital recorder, right?
Yeah, it's about this big. It sits on my cart. I have my panel on my top shelf. There I run everything that controls the recorder. I got a little backup recorder on top, just in case. I just record one track of audio on that. I do a mix down just in case there's a problem with my primary. And all my radio mics and everything else,
Yeah, so again, and this is over time. You see, you've been collecting and gathering equipment that's appropriate. And so my question is, this goes with you everywhere you go. Everywhere, right?
It goes on the truck at the end of the night. We show up the next morning, the truck shows up, and we wheel it off the truck. And that goes on every day you're on the job.
Do you handle?
In between, it's in my garage.
So you don't take your equipment home with you, right?
Every night? No, I have too much. I have my main cart is about like this big, and it weighs about 300 pounds, 250 pounds. I have another, what I call a follow cart, which is like a mag liner, like a trolley type of thing, which I got this big, music, what is it called, the Avalon?
Anvil cases?
It's not an anvil, it's lighter, but it's basically, I got drawers, I got another case, and then I must have 20 cases worth of equipment, and all this on the truck. I'm not taking that home every night. I need my own truck every night. It's crazy, and there's no reason to. They have trucks for us. You ever go by a film set, you see all those trucks? One of them has the camera and the sound equipment. All the camera stuff lives there every night. We live on the same truck with the camera company. So I did not take it home every night.
And but here's the funny thing: when it comes off the truck, who takes it off the truck?
I do actually.
You do.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Some mixers I know, maybe the older guys, some of the older guys, a little older school, they like expect their team to show up and do everything, and they come in and sit down and say roll, and they record. Not so much anymore. You know, I'm pretty hands-on. I believe in a very cooperative department. I'm not a top-down kind of mixer. You know, it's not like I'm the boss and you have to do what I tell you. I'm more like, here's the situation. Well, what do you think? What do you think? What if we try this? What if we try that? So there's three of us who are all very good and experienced. My boom operator, Seth, and Allison is awesome. So we talk it through and we figure it out. But I roll the car on and off myself, generally speaking, when I'm on time. But I've gotten better about that, I have to say.
And the other thing too is, you know, we talked about sit down. We talked about you know, what you do. You're on the set. How often do you ever, if at all, go into the studio for the post-production to see?
Never.
Never.
Never. Who's got time? Who's got time? You know, they have guys for that. It's kind of weird because what we do on location and what they do after location, the post-production guys, there's sometimes very little communication. You know, it used to be like we get a call from post and we go, oh, something's wrong. They would only call if there's a problem. This doesn't sound right. Why did you do this, and then the other? But unless there's no white collar, and the following, I haven't gotten one call from post yet. So when they don't call, it's like no news is good news, you know. So it's
yeah, don't be happy.
right.
Yeah, don't.
I'm working 14 hours, 12, 13, 14 hours a day. What am I going to do after work? Go in and do some more work. It used to be when we were actually shooting on film instead of video. They have what they call dailies. So the day after we film, they would take the film to the lab and they develop it and print it and they'd sync the sound. And we'd go to a theater after work, a screening room, and we'd watch the work on the screen. Except for the hours, because you work all these hours, then you have to go down. Like we're on Sopranos, we're in New Jersey a lot. They would do the dailies in Technicolor on 44th off of 9th Avenue. Some of us would go down there after work and then go home after work. It's crazy, but to watch them. I miss film a lot. Yes?
What software do you use for the audio tracks?
My software is built in, it's proprietary to the recorder. It's not really software. I mean, it's software that lets you do equalization, different functions, but it's not an aftermarket thing that you can buy and install. It comes it's a standalone box, so you can't do that. I mean, if you're doing editing afterwards, that's a whole different thing. You know, but for the location work we do, it's all built in. Software. Basically, we're recording broadcast wave files. You know, 24-bit broadcast wave files. You know, with time codes, they can sync easily to the picture and all that. But there's no aftermarket software for it.
So basically, the other, because you guys don't really learn this, but there are these other things that just record audio. There's no screen for you to stare at for hours. No, 22-inch monitor. Everything is right on the box. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you see it, if you see in this picture, stop it. Right in here, that's the box right there on the bottom. You can see it. You know.
And then I think in one of them, I think in the articles, you'll see a box there's an ad for a recorder in one of the things at the bottom there. So that's a perfect example of a standalone hardware recorder. You see, the problem that I have with a lot of music production is you guys are too busy looking at screens and not listening to the content. And a lot of times when I see like my students post pictures on Facebook and stuff, everybody's sitting in the studio looking at a screen. That doesn't necessarily mean you're listening to what's happening, you know? And so the beauty of this standalone hardware recorder is that, like you said, he has his headphones, he's listening, okay? How close are you to the action that's going on the screen, like, you know, the filming?
It depends on the set, really. I like to be fairly close because I like to be able to interact with the actors and talk to them about if I get a little more level, if I need to, or be near the directors. So the director always wants to look at you, especially when you're out on location. If there's a bang or a plane or a truck goes by, they'll always look back at you like, is that okay? We need to go again. So the one fun thing about doing sound is I can actually stop the whole production if I need to.
We got power.
This is no good. They don't like you very much. But you know, if there's like background noise, whatever, just listen.
Stop.
This is no good. We should cut because this is a big waste of time and emotional energy from the actors to be doing this when they'll never be able to use it. We're just going to have to go up again anyway. I usually let it go because a lot of times they may not even be using the stuff of the actor talking. They could be doing reaction shots of the actor next to them. You know, just looking as the first actor talks. So I like to let it go, but they cut it all kinds of ways. You never know what they're going to use.
Well, the reason
I'm fairly close, but I have two monitors, two video monitors on my car, little 7-inch monitors, and I get a feed from the video people on set, so I can actually see what the camera's seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mix the picture a lot. I mean, the editors, from what I understand, post-production guys don't really like when we do that. They don't like to do a lot of equalization in the field because it takes away flexibility for them if you do too much. I do a little bit just to crisp it up, especially when you're hiding microphones. You know, they get a little muddy because they're under clothing and stuff like that, or when you got to put a lot of wind protection on them because you're outside, it's windy. So I'll crisp it up a little bit for clarity, but I don't do a lot there. But I will mix to picture, you know, instead of playing the radio mics, which are really in your face because they're right here, versus a boom microphone that may be a little further away. I will, let's say there's a shot of somebody coming from the back of a room right towards us. And I always have a boom open mic in the room because they always sound so warm and open, and they kind of give you a sense of space, while the lavaliers just give you presence and no sense of space. So I'll start something where I'm watching on the monitor, somebody's deep, and I'll have the lavalier mixed in just a little bit just for clarity so we can hear them. But as they get closer, you know, I'll bring it up more and more and more so that by the time they get right into your face, there's a lot of presence there. Or I'll find a transition point where I'll be able to switch over to the boom, hopefully where you don't actually hear the transition. Because the whole idea of what I do in the mix is that when you listen to it later, you're not supposed to hear different mics coming and going. The idea is that it's all one, like you would hear it with your ears in the best case scenario.
Because what I was really stressing was the point, like, you're watching for the balance in the audio, but you can't like start watching the scene and lose track of what you're doing. Okay, so you can't just be like there's Kevin Bacon. He's like totally, he's always intense. That's like, the running thing about him. He's like doing the scene, and you can't get caught up in like watching the action. You have to do the job. Okay, Well, you got.
let me tell you, you're right. Sometimes it is hard. When it's really good, and I've been lucky to be in. I mean, I've done some whack projects too, but I've been on some really good stuff that's riveting, some emotional stuff where you're working with these great actors. I mean, really top actors in the moment, in the scene, especially if it's an emotional scene, like a love scene or a breakup scene, or somebody died or something like that. It's sometimes really hard not to get caught up in it because it's very intimate. Aside from the director, the sound mixer is really more in tune with the scene than almost anybody else. Plus, by virtue of having the headphones on your head, you're in this closed little world, and you're watching on the monitor while you're writing your levels. You always have to keep, your eye on your levels. I mean, you still don't watch the screen, but obviously there's a screen on the recorder, so you eyeball the levels every once in a while. But when it's a really emotional scene, it's hard not to get caught up in, at least me. I mean, I like to get involved in the projects I'm working on. I'm not like some of the crew are like, who did the crap, it's like it's a job. But for me, it's like, especially when it's a good project like this, it's hard not to get a little distracted sometimes.
So,
when you're working 10, 12, 14 hours a day, it's hard to keep that focus all day long for all those hours. It takes a lot of concentration.
So there goes
work, but it's close.
So there goes Alex. So he's watching the scene. Somebody's crying. It's a real tender moment. He's supposed to be mixing sound, and then the director says cut, and he starts wiping his eyes because he's crying. You softy.
Hey, I've got emotional in scenes. I've done scenes with actors. We did a scene where somebody's father was dying, and it was really intense. And it's like, wow, you feel it. You really feel it. A good actor, it takes you to a whole other place.
I'll be so emotional.
Who is this guy?
What's interesting, it's funny because by doing sound, you kind of eyeball your levels to make sure you're within a certain range so that the recording is safe. If you want to overmodulate, get distortion or under-record, because then it sounds a little thin. But you really do get caught up on it. I mix by feel. I feel the sound pressure. The most important thing I tell people when they start out, whatever you do, Find a headphone level and never change it. Do not change your headphone levels, because at some point when you're mixing in the fly, I'll have, it's not like a, music you go back over and over and over and massage it and get every little transition level of every syllable right. You got to do it as it's happening, and every take's going to be a little different. An actor will say a line here, another actor will start saying a line, and then one take will say it here, and then he'll pause or he won't pause. Sometimes actors will jump in place, and so you got to keep track of all that. I'll take scenes like, we get the script every day of what we're filming, and they make them small. It's called size. A small piece of paper, I take them, I fold them down, and I can have size. I've done scenes with like 8 people talking that are like from here to the ground. We're talking about 5 pages. We spend all day doing this stuff, and I'm mixing the wireless, I'm doing the EQ, I'm hitting all these buttons and checking my sends and everything else, this and that. And so it's like, you really gotta focus. But if it's just a boom in a room with an actor and a close-up, and you just kind of ride the level, you can really get caught up.
So like that's like the scenes like when they're like what he's talking about. Like I'll get you a question in a second, but it's like because a lot of scenes in the show, the following, where like the FBI's in like a command station, like that, right? And so there's like the 2 or 3 people who are on the computers. There's the main character who's talking to his what do you call it? Because like his boss, like the black dude, so what do you like? Not the antagonist, but I guess that character.
The FBI guy?
Yeah, because like with Kevin.
Which episode is this? This more recent, not the first one.
No, like throughout the series, like where like Kevin Bacon's like at odds with the.
Yeah, they bring in because the FBI is like botching the job.
Right.
Also getting ahead of them. The Washington sends this other guy, Nick, I forget his last name.
Right, and so you have like all these people in the command center. You got like these computer people. You've got Kevin Bacon. You have his boss, and then you have his boss's boss, and they're all talking. Oh, I've got this. Okay, where is it? It's over here. Or I've got to read on it too. Okay, so like all this stuff is happening at once. Now, then you have like shows like it's very difficult for me to watch Kiefer Sutherland in a show because he's like the same guy all the time. He's always breathy and agitated in every show he does. But when you talk about levels, here's a guy who's like always screaming, like in the show. What's the show? It's
24.
No, Touch, the new one. It's like he's always just yelling, like always, with a breathy sound. No, he's like always doing that. So you have to, but when you talk about levels, that's the first thing that goes to my mind. Those actors, like a Pacino.
You like those actors?
What? They're always loud?
Oh yeah.
Because they're the ones you set your levels to, right?
I've done 2 films with Pacino now. Right?
Okay.
And it's great. I did this film Righteous Kill, with De Niro and Pacino, right? And
Oh yeah, with 50's in there, right?
Yeah, 50's.
Okay, yeah, okay.
First was in there. And he's De Niro there's a scene in it where a bad guy gets off.
You don't know this movie?
And he's like, basically saying, and he's like, I'm like, can you hear him? I got everything's turned up. I'm like, what's going on? And Al comes in and says hi. I was like, whoa, because his voice goes from 0 to 60 in a syllable.
It's like
I mean, he's got the most dynamic, interesting voice.
You always know it's him.
Yeah, Pacino's great. But mixing the 2 of them in the same scene, you write in these huge dynamics, between this De Niro, Bob, who's like so soft. Even when he's like angry, and then Pacino doesn't have to say anything. He's like, so it's like finding that balance where they both work, deciding what mics work for each one, depending on clothing, all that. That's the challenge of the job. I did this movie Notorious also. We mixed that, and the challenge of that was music. I love doing music films. I got the sound because I love music in the first place. But the big challenge for that was getting all these performances. Now they brought Jamal Wooler, who played Notorious B.I.G., into the studio, and he pre-recorded every song they were going to shoot live. Basically, go in the studio and record it.
We're going to show that to you. We're going to show. We brought that in. Hey, you want to ask him a question real quick? I'm going to set that up.
Yeah. How long does it take to shoot a scene?
No, like one scene.
Like one take, or?
We just work in it.
That's more the extreme, not the extreme, but I've done a fair amount of stuff with like, this person, they jump over this, okay, what about this, you got this, and it's like all these different lavaliers going. But it depends, we talk about page count. So let's say a regular movie script is about 120 pages, and a page generally, very roughly, is about a minute of screen time. So a 120-page script translates into about a 2-hour movie. For a TV show, we do about 55-page scripts, because TV show's about 44 minutes with commercials. So we'll do maybe on TV, let's say 9-day episodes on the following for about a 45, 50-page script. So we'll do like 5 pages a day, which is only 5 minutes of screen time in about 12, 13 hours. And one day I realized, we spent 13 hours a day on The Sopranos. 1 day of filming is basically longer than the entire season on the air, of which we spent 6, 7, 8 months shooting. So the time, it's crazy. If it's a 2-page scene, we can do it in about 4 hours. But because, you do the shot, you do a big shot where you see the room, let's say everybody's sitting in a classroom, you got someone leading a class, and then you're gonna have another shot where maybe you'll see groupings, let's say the students are talking, asking a question, then have another shot on the professor, maybe from the back of the room with the students in the foreground, and then another shot closer up like this, and it's all part of the same scene. So we have all these shots. Now on TV and film now, they often shoot 2 cameras at once, because it just saves a lot of time. So it makes my job hard, but that's a whole other technical thing about booming versus wires and wide shots and close-ups at the same time, where the mic's got to be out here, but the other camera's here, so you can't get the mic where you get. I'm not even going to get into that.
And don't forget about shadows. That's always like the funny thing. Like we see the shadow of the boom.
The boom itself?
Yeah. Oh, the boom itself. It's like, where did that come from? How'd they get there?
Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah.
No, ask questions. Go ahead.
Because I've seen a movie that, this like, not a film, but like, you see like a certain like item, and you got like a reflection in it, but you can't see the camera on the reflection or something. I don't know how they hide it.
Yeah, sometimes the camera only has to go from here to here. So it still keeps something in reflection, and you won't see the camera. Or excuse me, on the show White Collar, the thing that drove me crazy is a horrible sound job. Nice people, good hours, but they like to shoot very low angles with a lot of glass and reflection. So to get a boom in there is really almost impossible because the camera is low, so it doesn't see itself. But boy, you look at the angle, and that mic is right there. Even on a close-up, we experience that with my mics on them
because they're doing up
it's
shots.
everywhere, and they shoot low. So it's very easy to frame the camera out and still see stuff. And you never know with digital imagery now, CGI, computer graphic imagery, they could drop something in. You don't know that it was actually there in the first place.
Right, so because they use those shots to show like the bigness of things, right? Like from the bottom
to
up.
some extent. Well, it's called the first shot. The big shot is called a master shot. It's also known as an establishing shot. It kind of gives you the geography of the space. So you're in a room. There's actors there, and they're walking over to there. There's other actors here. They talk, and then that actor leaves over there. And you kind of get a spatial sense of where everybody is, and then you punch into all your close-ups and 2 shots, whatever it is.
You have a question back there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're recording on the set, is there any techniques that you wouldn't normally do, that you wouldn't normally do to achieve a 3D sound, like on Step Up 3D?
Oh, we didn't do Step Up. We didn't do 3D sound in Step Up. It was Step Up. It was 3D imagery, but sound-wise, you can't really. The thing about when you watch, I don't know if you guys have surround sounds at home or certainly in the theater, the dialogue is almost always centered. No matter what. The dialogue is almost always a mono-centered track. And what you're hearing in your surrounds is music, sound effects, maybe ambiances in a room, cars going by, things like that. But the dialogue is always front and present. Maybe it's a big screen, 2 people are talking on either side of a big screen. You may hear someone talking there, someone else talking there. But they do all that in the final mix. I don't deal with that. Although I did fool around with some stereo mic recording for ambiances for that show, just to help fill the space. I know a guy did another 3D movie, Fatal, what's the ones where the roller coaster,
Oh, Final Destination?
Yeah, Final Destination. That was in 3D. And I was talking to the mixer, and he had his whole mic rig. We had a stereo front, he had another mic facing back, so he got a full surround in this capsule that he built to keep the wind off of it, and they use that a lot for that film. But that film had a lot of effects. You know, you had the roller coaster, you had all this crazy stuff going on there, so they could really use that in a way that fills the space. Step Up was really more of a dialogue film with dance, so that would have been way overkill.
How do you, so with, who has the next question? Okay. I just want to ask, so how do you deal with things like Final Destination, where it's like it's also a screaming movie too?
Yeah.
It's just a lot. Are you doing that? Or is that an ADR thing also?
Well, if you do it right, they don't have to loop anything. I mean, as I said at the beginning, my job is to make sure the actors don't have to loop. But in a situation like that, a movie like that, I didn't mix it. But with all the effects, this is what happens on the Pirates of the Caribbean films. Anything where you got like wind and storms and boats and all this noise, but you know, to make that wind, they got these huge, like, jet engine fans up below. And they are so loud, you can't get good dialogue off that. So a lot of situations like that, they have to go into the studio and replace a lot of dialogue. I interviewed for a film that was supposed to take place on a boat coming across the Atlantic in the 1840s. And they wanted to shoot it at the end of Jacob Riis Park out in Queens on the runway there. They were going to build this whole big mylar green screen thing to make it look like a hurricane. And the ship's told they were building this gimbals to put this huge boat on. Anyway, we gave up. They said it never happened. but I went in for the interview and they said, oh, it doesn't matter. We're going to replace all the dialogue anyway. So it doesn't matter what you do. I'm like, well, really? That's not a lot of fun.
That's not a lot of fun.
But I do more dialogue-driven stuff. I've not really been on too many really big effectsy kind of movies, those Hollywood movies. I tend to do more dramas and comedies and stuff like that.
Good.
So when I'm watching a movie and there's like an action scene, it's really loud, and the next scene's like dialogue and it gets really quiet, is that an issue of like post-production or what's going on?
That's a post-production thing. You know, I don't cut the scenes together. You know, I just do what happens within the individual scene.
So like more specifically, it sound like how if I'm watching a movie at home and there's scenes of explosions, I have to like lower the volume, but then like I gotta bring it way up because
doesn't it drive you nuts?
Absolutely insane.
It drives me insane.
I
I don't understand that. You know, we're talking dynamic range, you know, the difference between the lowest sounds and the loudest sounds. And I don't understand why, although I think they might, I'm not really sure why they don't do a separate dynamic range mix for DVDs, so that when you're home like that, you know, the loud ones aren't quite so loud, and so the quieter scenes actually they match better.
Yeah.
But they use a lot of commercials, you know. It's not like the commercials are recorded louder, because legally they're not allowed to be above a certain decibel level when they're transmitted. But they compress them so much so that the dynamic range is squeezed so that it punches out, like, you know, when you compress vocals or bass. You know.
It wasn't that.
It's man-made.
Isn't that the law? Didn't they pass that law recently? Right?
Commercials.
Right?
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not real sound. It's not real levels that you're hearing. It's perceived levels. Because it's so compressed and smushed together, like every horribly recorded hit song that's out there now.
Can you say that one more time, please?
I mean, if
we
you look at waveforms from 20 years ago of music, it's like, you know, nice and bouncy, kind of range. But
beautiful.
You look at anything out there now on the top 40 on the radio now, it's like a wall of waveform there. It's like they master them and they just crunch the crap out of it and they push out all that sound so it sounds better on the radio. But I'm telling you, it's killing our ears. And all you guys are these crappy little iPod buds or whatever, you know. You got to be really careful. I'll say this right now, especially with hip hop and this low frequency stuff. You got to protect your ears. And they do not come back. You destroy those little hairs, it's long-term problems. I mean, even now I'm like in a situation, all the gunfire and stuff, Sopranos and everything else I've done, I get into situations like in a crowded room or a party, I gotta look right into somebody's face and watch their lips, sometimes to understand them, and pull them out from the background. When you spend 30 years or so, as I have, with a microphone, amplified, the headphones, picking noise out of the background, or vocals out of their background, you know, when you don't have all that stuff and you're just in the real world, it gets tricky,
No,
especially at parties.
Well, that's why we in college we kind of like did this thing. You know, we should just learn sign language because that way we're not screaming at a bar. We can just communicate easily. You know, but see,
We're talking about levels, talking about screaming actors. Our problem is the sound people in the field is the quiet ones, what we call whisperers. You know, I have a shirt that says "A good actor is a loud actor." You know, because for us it's about getting level out of them. I can't tell you how many times I go to these actors. Can I get a little more? I can't hear you. I heard a funny story about this actor. They were shooting under an L or something like that, And the sound guy was saying, can I get a little more level? Sure, and no problem. The next take would get a little softer. So he said, it sounded like you went down, can I get a little more? And then finally, after the third take, the actor went over to the sound guy and said, can I listen back to that last take? I couldn't hear myself. I'm like, well, if you couldn't hear yourself, how do you expect us to record you? Because you got to remember, the whole art of recording vocals, it's about recording the air. Now, you're not recording the body, you're recording the vibrations of the air. So the sound comes out of the mouth combined with resonance off the chest, and that's what you're recording. Your ideal mic placement is right there. This is the general area you want to aim for with a directional microphone. For that very reason.
Can you name a soft-sounding actor? Without getting in trouble?
Bob's
Yeah. But you're right, because unless he's doing a very dramatic scene, he's not like a, because I keep thinking of The Untouchables, that classic scene, Yeah. But when he's acting, he's not like this. He's not Pacino's like crazy. He's like my extreme. But no, I understand that. And anybody else you could think of off the bat, like female-wise, otherwise?
Was it?
Female-wise.
Well, I did another show. It was on really recently, only a few episodes, NYC 22 about rookie cops in Harlem. And it was on CBS. They canceled after 5 episodes. It's a shame. But one of our lead cops, her name is Lily Sobieski.
Mm-hmm.
Sobieski, really nice person, all that. And like we're doing the scene. What's that?
That was a good show.
Yeah, it was a decent show. I don't know why they canceled it, but who knows? But anyway, we were doing the scene. We had a mic here, basically down her throat, and we saw her lips move. And I talked to my boom op afterwards. I said, "Did she say something?" He said, "I don't know. I thought she did." Really? She came over me. They screened one of the episodes for the crew, and she said, "You can hear me, see?"
Yeah. That's not exactly what we're talking about here.
So, but younger actors, one more second. The thing is, you can almost always tell when an actor's trained in theater versus a TV person. Because theater actors know how to modulate their voices. Like real trained singers, they know how to bring it up and drop it down and whisper it, but still have punch. These TV actors, they think if you ask for more level, it means for them to yell. No, good actors know how to project their voice without it actually being loud. And I say, I need a little more voice, a little less air. I just need a little more.
So, how do you deal with dynamic problems?
Write it. I write it, yeah. I'm always writing everything in real time. I don't like to use a lot of compression. I generally don't use a limiter. I've gotten into scenes where it's like, after a couple of rehearsals, a couple of takes, it's going from 0 to 6, like screaming. And I have dropped the limiter in just to control the top level, just so it doesn't blow out. But generally, it's all real time.
It's like, yeah.
With the 16-track recorder, though, what we do, I do a mix to 1-track mono, and then every other mic, any mic, lavaliers or the boom or whatever, anything just gets its own track. That's pre-recorded, so nothing I do affects it except for equalization. So the post-production guys could then take it, and if there's a problem with one, with like the mix, they can go in and pull something out and work with it. The digital technology really gives them a lot of flexibility now.
Okay, other questions? Because what I want to do is I want to take like a quick break and stop and give you guys a break, and then we'll talk about Notorious. Okay? Okay, so we can take a break, yeah.
But there's not a lot of women who do what I do. There's a lot of women boom operators, strangely enough, and a fair amount of utility people, but not a lot of mixers. Actually, I was working with the same person for 13 years, this woman, Timothea, and she went on to mix. She left me. But she actually, on the job that she did called 666 Park Avenue, about this. Yeah. Well, she wanted to mix, well, they canceled it. It wasn't that good. But anyway, she wound up mixing it. An original boom operator left the job, so she brought in a woman boom operator, and she had a woman utility. It was the only all-woman sound crew I've ever heard of in New York. We had another female sound mixer, but I think she kind of left the film business. I think she does work in churches and stuff like that. She decided she didn't like the film world, as it were, the den of sin that it is, and all that. But she wound up working in churches, but there's not a lot of women mixers. There's some in LA, this woman Lisa I know, and some others, but not a lot.
In New York, I've interned for one, her name was Meredith, and she works at Flux Studios.
Yeah.
And
There are probably a lot more people in studios than on the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of women in films and sound studios to some extent. But, you know, also, we were talking about interning before. I want to say, you know, you work in a studio now, and you basically get hired to sweep up for the first 5 years. You know?
5 years.
If
good
you can
stuff.
even find a studio that's still open. Right?
That's true. I mean,
You know, everyone does everything in their living
I mean,
room.
we try. I mean, they'll tell you. I'm a very realistic about work that's really out there kind of person.
Yeah.
And I treat them. I treat this class like it's a job. You know, you come late, you get penalized because that's the way the job works.
Yeah.
But what's really out there is not the place. What's really out there is the opportunity for you to make something. And that's the way I look at it, you know. And you're talking about something. You're talking about a career that I know personally. The way that you're talking about it, if things were now and I was in college, if I was in their seat, I would completely change. You know, I'm more about being a musician always, you know.
Yeah.
But I could see like this is the job that keeps working, you know, because you've talked about quite a few series and films that I'm like, you know, this is things that I have seen, obviously. So, with me, I just think like, what's more real? Something that I'm always looking at, which is film, you know, or something that I'm barely listening to, which is radio. And then when I listen to radio, I'm not even listening to what's there. I'm listening to 1010. I'd rather just hear people talk than hear the music, because it's just compressed. It's everything that we just spoke about. So to me, the idea is, like you said, being outside, being on location, not being in the same place all the time. And everything it's always different, depending, unless you have like a nice run like The Sopranos, and even like this, you know, the following, because you got a second season coming, right?
Yeah, we're one of the few New York shows that actually got picked up for a second season. A lot of shows didn't do well, but we had a big enough audience that they're bringing us back, although I don't know how we're going to do another season when you see how it ends.
Here you go again. You see what he does? You see what he does?
That was just for you.
He knows I actually do love this show, and I hope you guys get a chance to see it.
If you don't mind violence and creepy stuff, it's really, really dynamic show. But you know, the thing about doing location work is I've got to travel. I went to Greece for a month on Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2. I did a martial arts film. I was in China for 3.5 months. I've been to Europe doing documentaries. I've been to Peru. I've been to India. So I got to see a fair amount of the world, which has been really fun, because some of these places I would probably never have gotten to on my own dime. You know, and they fly you over, they put you up, they pay you at the same time. It's really, really fun. Doesn't always happen. I mean, I'm a big fan of documentary work when you're starting out, because you get to travel a lot. It's not something you want to do. When you get older, you get a family, you don't want to be out of town so much anymore. But when you're younger, you know, you want to see the world as much as you can. You know, it's all out there. It's just all about learning and experience and listening. And I was saying during the break, I said, you really want to do sound? You walk around with a microphone and a recorder and a pair of headphones, and you put yourself in different situations, quiet situations, street situations, and you try to get a voice, walk out with a friend and see what works and what doesn't work. And it's just all about just listening and learning and taking in new experiences, and travel is a big part of that.
You know, when we talk about the documentary thing, which is really amazing, you know, there was this really great series on PBS. It was 1492. It was the Columbus story, you know, and it was an incredible documentary, and it told me a lot, like the real thing about Columbus, like how Europe came to South America. It was like the real full story. And this guy, the narrator, with this huge grant from the government, and everything, they told the real story about Columbus. And like the real slave trade from Africa to South America, but the guy who was narrator was all over the world primarily. You know, he was in all of Europe, and he was in South America. I mean, the guy was traveling, and the person who was traveling with him obviously was this, was the sound mixer, and they were going all over the place.
Well, one would hope. I have to say though, in a lot of those documentaries, they pick up crews wherever they go.
Yeah,
but not always.
But let's talk about that real quick, and then we'll show the movie. Can you tell, with that kind of thing, with location filming and things like that, do they use different people in different areas, or is it one crew throughout the whole thing?
It really depends on how big it is. You know, I think a lot of times they'll bring a camera person with them everywhere they go. But not always a sound person. I mean, I've gotten to travel a fair amount. It depends on the budget, because they got to fly you, put you up, feed you, per diem, take care of you while you're there. And if they can find local people, I mean, if you're going to London, you're not going to bring a mixer from New York.
Why not?
You know,
Fun.
yeah, but you know what I mean. Generally speaking, you know, they'll hire local when they can if there's qualified people.
So that's what you see at the end. See, that's why I was telling you guys, when you know, don't just go to a movie and just watch the movie and leave when the credits start rolling. Look at the credits. See who's doing what, because just like you said, like with you know, I'm thinking of like the Bourne Ultimatum, where they have. Then you see like, you know, the Istanbul Crew. It's like a totally different thing, you know? So then when you start looking at the credits, you get a real idea of like who's doing what. See what names you still begin to see. Because if you watch this, you'll begin to see more familiar names. Like I always look at this to see if my friends are working on films.
Oh yeah, sure.
That I
Especially
haven't-
New York films, yeah.
Yeah,
Always stay
you
for the
know,
credits.
somebody I haven't seen for a while, you know, so you know I don't know what they're doing. So I always look to see, and I'll call them. I say, hey David, I didn't know you were doing the music for someone. Says, oh yeah, oh you saw that? That's cool, because they want to know that people are watching.
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
And then you see the jobs though. Remember I was telling you about this. Like what did it for me when I was still in musician phase was, you know, the first Transformers movies, and what do I see? Pro Tools operators getting credits on movies, and I was like, "Are you serious?" You know, that's just like a thing.
Oh yeah.
But that's now a credited job. So you got to start looking at, you know, the person who's, because I always look at that section: sound design, sound mixing, ADR, orchestrators, copyists,
Supervising sound editor.
all this stuff, music supervisor. I
Yeah.
always look and see who's doing that, and see how consistent it is from the type of movie director and producer, if they're the same people.
Yeah.
You know, because now you're beginning to see, like you said, who gets the call, who's always getting the call.
The relationships.
It's what it is. Because you know, we'll talk about this later, but you know that if you're going to see a Tim Burton movie, who's going to do the score?
It's always going to be Danny Elfman.
Always. For the most part.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp may not always be in the movie, but for the most part he usually is. But you know for a fact, if it's Tim Burton, it's Danny Elfman doing music.
But also, some directors are very loyal to their crews.
And that's the other thing.
I
Yeah.
just work with this wonderful woman, Lynn Shelton. She's done a lot of independent stuff. I just did a pilot with her for CBS. And she's based out of Seattle. And I said, so who's doing your next film? She said, I work with the same guys all the time. Wes Anderson, another guy, for the most part. He did Royal Tenenbaums, Moonrise
yeah.
Kingdom was his last film, and stuff like that. But anyway,
Royal Tenenbaums, I know, yeah.
yeah, there's some guys that are just very loyal.
You just
loyal
get
to
the
their
call.
people.
Remember I said the main thing about doing this is that you want to be successful, that you know that you're going to get the call. You want to get the call. You don't want to just, you know, act like, you know, you will get the call. You want to be the person that gets the call.
They say you're only as good as your next job. I say you're only as good as your last job, but I guess it's the same idea.
Yeah, because you can mess up the next job.
Yeah. But it's tough. But there's
I don't
one.
know what happened. He was good in the last movie.
Yeah, you know. Oh, the other joke is they say, oh, really nice work. I say, well, you know, I may not be the best, but I was the best available. You know, and doesn't matter how you get a
good one.
job. You know, people are like, oh, well, you know, they called a couple people first, and then they called me. I'm like, yeah, so what? You got the job. It doesn't matter who they call first. It depends who gets the job. You can't have pride when you freelance. Right now, I'm looking at. I just found out we're not going back to August 19th. We're supposed to come back in the middle of July. That puts me another extra 5-6 weeks without income. Mm-hmm. So that's the other deal of freelance, and you got to keep the jobs coming on, you know. And I think I try to be very reasonable on set, try to be very easygoing, but everyone's got their personalities, and not everybody's going to like you, no matter how good a job you do, whatever. So you can only do your best. You try to be reasonable and accessible and flexible. And you just hope that it works out. I mean, I know a lot of people call me because it's like, I've been doing it 30 years, so I guess I must be doing something right. But right now, a bunch of movies came into town. I called, and we already have a mixer. You know, I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. I want to say, and you don't want to say it. I said, well, who'd you get? And you go, wait, you hired him? You know, because this is
him.
Rob Reiner's doing a movie in Connecticut, and they hired this guy, and it's like, because he had done a low-budget job for Rob Reiner. He did a really low-budget film a couple of years ago, so they hired the same guy. I guess they liked him.
You hired Alex? I can't believe that.
Well,
Hired him for?
his name is. Oh no, I won't do that. But and anyway, but the freelance life, it can be tricky. When you do it long enough, you tend to be all right. I have friends kind of in the business who work more in the production side of things, and they took staff jobs because they had kids who were growing up. I didn't have kids of my own, so I didn't have to worry about a weekly paycheck. The thing about when you're young, before you get the whole family and kids thing, is that you have a lot of flexibility. And the most important thing I can tell you is that no matter how much money you make, you don't have to spend it all. Trust me.
What?
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 You
Spend
don't
money.
need 85 guitars. I'm just saying. For example.
Doesn't make you a bad person, though.
No, doesn't make you a bad person. Anyway.
Can you close the door? Because I'm hearing the piano.
Yeah.
Not that it, since you're union, can you tell?
Well, someone asked about interning in between, interning on a set or whatever like
Okay.
that. It's tough to intern. Let's say we do a 6-week job where you can just come on and work. I mean, you could work something out with production, maybe where they don't mind if you're there. I don't know if there's insurance issues or whatever, but you're basically a fourth hand, but they got to feed you and all the rest of that. So that can become an issue with the production people, but I've had people come by set and just hung out for the day. I had this guy who's actually just getting into the union now, and so he hung out for a couple of days. But his personality, I don't know if he's right for the business. You know, you come on to set. I mean, I think he knows doing, but he's a little too. Sound people are weird. Let me tell you. You know, in the universe of the film world, everyone's got, there's a lot of strong personalities, and there's a lot of hierarchy and a lot of, you're working with people 60, 70 hours a week for week after week, month at a time. Trust me, friction happens. People get in each other's face. So you want to be as reasonable as possible, but sound people are particularly weird because I find there's two kinds of sound people in the film business, either frustrated musicians or high schools like science nerds, who are all like geeky and techie and all that. But the job really requires a combination of both. But we're kind of outsiders on the set. All the focus is on the visual. Everything's on the camera. What does it look like, this and the other? And you're fighting to do your job, and you're always like the bad news on set. Oh, that's no good. Oh, director, great take. Let's move on. I'm like, no, we had a plane, we got to go again. And it's like, oh, we hate you, So, but that stuff like that happens a lot. So you have to have you got to be strong, and you got to fight for what you want. But part of doing location sound is knowing what you can get away with. It's all about compromise. It's very rare to get a pure track, which leads me into Notorious.
Okay. But real quick, so I just want to say, since you're a union guy,
yes.
How do they get paid in your union? Is it a weekly thing?
Weekly.
It's weekly.
Yeah.
Okay.
We get paid through a payroll company. The production companies who are making the films, they bring on a payroll company. We submit time cards, and we get a check every Thursday. And we also, for sound people, we have our own equipment. We submit an invoice for rental of the equipment for the week too. So we get a check every Thursday.
Okay. So remember, that other part of it is, the extra stuff that you do, that you have to keep records of. So if you want to get paid for this extra stuff, which is the rental stuff, because you're laying out that money, you got to keep these good records. So again, you guys, you've taken class with me before. I always tell you this: the essence of having a log is to always keep track of what you're doing while you're doing it. Not so much the job thing, but like these things that you need also. So understand what you've been listening to today, and it's a job, people. Okay, it's a career. We wouldn't say it's a lifestyle so much, right? It's really.
Let me tell you, when you're working 67 hours a week, it's not just a career.
Okay.
Let me tell you, it takes over your whole life. It really sucks in a lot of ways, because not only out there in the environment and all the elements, no matter what, and you don't control your own schedule. They say calls at 7 o'clock in Staten Island, and you live in Westchester. You got to give yourself 2 hours to get there. So now you're leaving at 5 in the morning because you don't know what kind of traffic you're going to hit on the BQE.
That would be 4:30.
Well.
Go to Staten Island because it's just.
Nobody likes going to Staten Island.
Hey now.
I mean, I interviewed for this pilot, and they said, well, we're thinking of shooting in Staten Island. I'm like, well, it might look nice, but logistically, nobody wants to go there. But 1 second. But you don't decide when you end the day. Like, I'm really tired. I'm just going to split. I'm going to take off early, right? Is that all right? No, it's not all right. You're there when we wrap. When they say, that's it, that's a wrap for the day, you pack your crap up, you put it back on the truck, and then you go home. So.
What's the minimum to get paid for?
The minimum? Right now, union wages for sound mixers, and I can say it because it's out there in public, it's about $50 an hour, $55 an hour. Sounds like a lot? Plumbers make more. Plumbers make more, white-collar people make more.
Custodians in high schools in Long Island have boats.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I'm telling you, it sounds like a lot. Trust me, it's all relative. I mean,
It
it's
is
not
relative.
McDonald's, but
Knock
let me
that
tell
boom
you,
out, boy.
you can make a lot more money doing other things than that too, especially for the hours we work. I mean, considering the conditions we're put upon, we really should be making more than we do.
What about the sound designers?
Sound designers is a whole separate deal. You know, they have their own deals, like the director of photography on the set. They kind of have these flat rate deals where they may get a certain amount per episode or per movie, or a sound designer may have a weekly rate, you know, and they just this flat rate basically. I really don't know what this scale is, but they do all right. But you know, editors, dialogue editors and all that, maybe they'll make $1,500 a week, which isn't bad. You know, it's great. It's good money before taxes, mind you. But you know, you still put in a lot of hours, and you really don't have a lot of control over your life.
You want to be there if you're committed to doing that job, and you know those hours and stuff like that. So you're committed to being there, but it's something that you decide that you want to do, which is why I'm trying to tell you guys. I mean, you may think that the stuff you see out there with your artists, quote unquote, and they're making money, that money's going to be gone real quick, okay? I'm talking about careers and jobs in this industry that are, put you kind of like in the same thing that you want to do. You're doing your craft, you're doing your skill set, but you're doing it in a way that you're making, money, and and these things that help you live, and you begin to start a career, okay? And so that's what we're really talking about. We don't do this program to help you make the hottest beat ever. You can't do that. I am the hottest thing in this room, okay? So your beats suck automatically. However, we're here to get you to talk about the careers that you want. And if we don't at least give you a sampling of the types of careers that are related to what we're teaching you, we're not doing our job as educators and as a school, as an institution of learning. So it's more important that you think about whether you're doing music production, acting, whatever, you got to think about the career that you want to have as opposed to the money. Because the one thing that nobody ever prepares for, people prepare for, if I make the money, this is what I'm going to do. Nobody ever prepares for failure. You never prepare for failure, okay? So, and failure is a temporary thing. Whereas,
hopefully,
I'm saying optimistically, failure is a temporary thing, And so, just like I had the battery issue with the mic, that was a temporary thing. It was like you had batteries right away, So simple things like that are what kind of makes you, move forward in your career. So we're going to show this movie because we're going to run out of class time a little bit. So we're going to show
how much time do we have?
We did like a full thing, 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be real quick on this. I would say it's a good living, but it's not a great life sometimes because it is a lifestyle. But back to Notorious. So we got in this whole situation where there's a lot of discussion. Jamal Woolard, who played Biggie Smalls, they brought him into the studio ahead of time. He pre-recorded all his tracks in the studio. But I had a feeling that it wasn't going to be dynamic enough for him to lip sync to. The problems with lip syncing, like when you do Pro Tools on set, and all our Pro Tools guys get film credits, by the way. And you said when you do lip syncing on set, it's got to match, which means you're not just focused on the performance, you focus on matching to something that happened months before, weeks before.
That's what I was saying. When I seen the movie, and then there was a part where he was on stage.
Yeah.
And the people were just like booing him because he wasn't singing the song that he wanted to sing.
Yeah.
And then I was noticing how did he get the lyrics down as of Biggie Smalls.
A lot of rehearsal for him. Wayne Barrett, who was Biggie's producer, was one of the producers on the shows. He schooled Jamal, and he went to Biggie school for months ahead of time, getting his rhythms down, the accent a little bit. It was fun. His mom was on set all the time. Biggie's mom was on set all the time, so she was watching too. But I said, let's try to get it live. Let's see what we can do with a live recording. We don't have to worry about lip sync. We have the energy and dynamics of a live performance in a room, and they said, well, we're worried about him sounding like not sounding like Biggie. And I said, but if the performance is there, the audience is going to get lost in the performance. And they're not going to worry about it's not exactly. Everyone knows he's not Biggie, so you don't worry about it. As it turns out, they wound up using 98% of the vocals in that movie were live, that we recorded on set.
His voice he sounds the same.
He's good, yeah. He did. Yeah.
You guys can fight
he did really
later.
good.
Okay, you guys can do a little thumb wrestling later.
Yeah, but anyway, but we had the situation where, and this is the big, so I'm showing you when they do, there's a scene in the movie where he sings Juicy, right? Now, because it's years later, the whole crowd, they brought 2,000 people in for the audience, for background to fill the space. We shot it at the Hammerstein Ballroom on 34th Street and 8th Avenue, and the crowd was singing along. They knew every word. So at one point, we put a mic over the crowd, a couple mics over the crowd, and we let them sing. And that's where you hear the audience singing along in the movie. That's all live too. The problem with playback also, especially with hip hop, it's so big and bassy and they needed so much level. We have these little earwigs that are basically just like earbuds, so you can hear, but they're wireless. And you can hide them in the ears because they're tiny, but they don't get a lot of volume. And these guys are like, mics in their mouth, swallowing the mics, really pumping out while they're rapping, and they can even hear the earbuds. So we had to come up with an alternative system where they could hear themselves. So I created a situation where we would do a little bit of playback. I have this Pro Tools guy, and he has all the pre-recorded tracks. So he sent me a feed of a vocal and the instrumental. I would then take it, and I sent my feed after recording it, or I went through my board and I went to the house guys so they can send it to monitors on the stage so they can hear the music and a little of the vocal mixed in with it. Just enough so that they would know where they were in the track. So Jamal would know where he was in the track. And it worked out pretty good.
Awesome.
My estimate was, the problem is you want to get anything you record live as clean as possible, especially when there's music. You don't want to have playback in the microphones because they want to be able to lay it in later on. The thing is, I knew that they were going to lay back the original pre-recorded track, which were the original Biggie tracks. They didn't recreate tracks, they was the original ones. So even if it was coming through the speakers and bleeding into the vocal mics, it didn't matter because when they got pushed together, you knew that it would work out fine. And they were going to make it sound like a room anyway, so it worked out really good.
Okay.
So they all had hand mics. I have recording 10 tracks. I had the vocal mics. We had a boom on stage because there's this thing where he decides to change the song. That might be actually later on. So we had some other people like Derek Luke, who played Biggie, Puffy. He had some dialogue on the stage in between because other things aren't going so well. So we had all these mics going on. I had to record, I had to feed playback for him at the stage. I was sending the live vocals back to the Pro Tools guy to re-record into the session. All this is going on in real time. I had to create a chart of my schematics of this is here and this is there. It was really a lot of prep for this job to do it right. And I tell you, it was one of the best jobs I ever had. So this is,
So where do you want to take it from?
let's, what we said, 105, I think.
105. Let's see if I can.
There's some other stuff he does early in the movie. Who's seen the film, by the way? So early stuff, there's some stuff he starts out in the basement. That was alive, that was a real Shure SM57 mic. There's a street rap that he did. There's a video on YouTube. You can see the original one. I looked at it, and I found the exact mic visually, so it would match when they recreated it. And I had it rewired up, but we had a problem with it. So, but it became a prop instead of a real working mic, which I wanted to. We wound up booming all the street stuff, and it worked out really well. But other than that, we had the big concert stuff. But anyway, we don't have a lot of time. But so you guys, you get the idea. And we took some time out. We got some crowds cheering, and booing, separate from the filming. Actually, they filmed it at the same time. So then they took all that sound and a good music editor and the dialogue editors. They cut it all together.
Where was this filmed?
Hammerstein Ballroom.
Oh, so all this.
These two big concerts were filmed in the same space, yeah.
They made it like when there was a scene. I think he looked like he was in California when he got the threats and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That was filmed.
No, they shot in LA for 3 days at the very end of the job. Speaking of which, they didn't take me.
No.
I didn't want to go anyway. For me to get my equipment and all my stuff
you.
someplace else for 3 days,
No,
I didn't even want to go. So.
Yeah.
But so you see right in that one scene there, the dynamics of doing stuff. I picked Notorious because I figured all you guys would know it. Also, it's a lot of music. We had a lot of mics going on. It's a very complex mix. But the music editors, well, I'll tell you guys, if you're really into music and music editing and you know your Pro Tools and you want to work in the film business, music editing is not a bad place to think about going. You don't make as much as location people, but you're in the studio, you're out of the weather, it's kind of fairly regular hours and all that. And if that's what you love doing, if you like working with music and especially cutting it, it's, post-production is not a bad place to think about going. So.
What do y'all think? Is this fun? It's better than me talking all day. They all like that.
Well, that's because I'm not talking all day.
Well, listen, technically class is over. So I do have to, by law, end it here. I want to thank Mr. Price for coming in. Please give him a hand. It was wonderful to have him.
Thank you.
And we're not running out. He's got stuff to do, but if you want to ask us some questions, please do.
Yeah, I got time. All right.